everyone. I am Mr. Leonilo Capulso from San Matias National High School, Senior High School. I am also the CEO of BN Books Publication. I would like to thank the organizer of this webinar for inviting me here. For this afternoon, I will be discussing that topic, striking the balance in integrating technology in delivering online modalities. So once again, for this afternoon, we're going to discuss the role of technology in K-12 education in online modalities. We will also discuss the strategies to maximize the use of technology, discuss the concept of digital detox in striking the balance in using technology, and explain the context of digital detox according to research studies, and demonstrate how to apply digital detox as students, parents, and educators. COVID-19, as we've been experiencing today, has impacted the educational system of the Philippines. The basic education is expecting 27 million students to enroll for the school year 2020-2021 as the school opens by August 24. COVID-19, in fact, where modalities will be adapted, will have an effect to the way education to be developed, to be delivered to students. Technology is changing the dynamics of education, especially the relationship between teachers and students. This is according to a researcher, a Filipino bishop in the name of Bishop Pablo David. In one of his posts, he said that no phone was allowed inside the school. That was before. Today, school is inside the phone. Indeed, this change has been brought about by the new normal or the next normal in education. Mr. Andrew Kim, a researcher from Steelcare Education Solution Team, once said that educators and school administrators should reshape educational spaces in providing a better learning experience to support educational evolution. Before, technology is only used as a substitute for conventional tools like transparencies for OHPs, handouts, books, and pens. Now, technology are transforming how institution and instruction actually happens. He further said that teachers will use technology to replace old models of standardized rote learning and creating more personalized, self-directed experiences for students. The challenge is this. As learning is becoming virtual, the virtual activities is actually becoming more physical. That is, virtual and physical are meeting at the middle. Now, how would online learning facilitates the forces of education? These are the competencies expected of basic education even before the pandemic. But As we shift to online modality, how are we supposed to maintain these four competencies with all these limitations? The forces of communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration are considered to be the 21st century skills. They are essential skills for of the future workplace. These are the skills required by an average individual in the course of providing for themselves, their families, and society. How do we develop communication in an online learning? Online learning environment requires students to communicate effectively and clearly. For example, when the teacher starts the class in the online learning, the teacher has to prepare and explain all the expectations from students. The students, therefore, should respond particularly on things they want to clarify. Students need to be responsible for clarifying the expectations of the course. Interactivity of online system therefore requires a more fluid, flexible, and swift communication. So the student must be open to the teacher and even to other persons who are helping in this modality. Communicating online is critical skill in technology as we move into an artificial um, intelligence driven community. The second skill or competency that we need to develop among learners is critical thinking. Teachers can ask students to adapt viewpoints different from their original thesis in order to teach them the function of bias in how they think about the world, particularly during discussions and debates. Sometimes students appreciate teachers' perspective differently. As students, therefore, they should have the freedom to express their own opinion, different from the way the teacher sees the reality. Online forums and discussions can be carefully moderated by educators with an eye to keeping online discussion flowing, yet demanding rigorous motivation and explanation from participants. So from time to time, teachers should engage to students and ask them how they appreciate the idea being presented. And of course, teachers should be open-minded for that. Gone were the days when the teachers are the only source of knowledge. The third competency that we need to develop among students is creativity. In fact, this is the new part of Bloom's taxonomy. So this was added to the last part of Bloom's taxonomy. So this pertains to the ability to explore and investigate new knowledge, combined with the ability to apply this in new different contexts. So internet is a wide rambling space that will enable students extraordinary exploration of ideas. Students tend to imagine a lot of things. They have a very creative mind. And out of that creative mind, they are able to create something as a solution to the old problems in society, but presenting it in a very different way. So teachers should have a firm hand in developing true intellectual creativity in designing lessons, may it be online or printed lessons. The focus, therefore, is not only on what student can find out, but on how they can apply the knowledge to solve old problems with new solutions. Collaboration is the fourth competency. The challenge is the cut and thrust of classroom discussion is missing in online learning. The focus, therefore, is fostering focus, responsible time management, and self motivation. More often than not, it's only between the student and the teacher separated by the screen. The response, therefore, is this: online environment is rich with cultural diversity. Our abilities to collaborate with, understand, and accept other cultures is rich, even with technologies shorten the distance between us. So, before we proceed, we always have that perspective in us that despite of the new modality in education, the four competencies expected from students should still be in place. Now, let's have 5 tips of online teaching in the midst of COVID-19. With all this limitation, how can we teach quality education using this online modality? Number one, as teachers, we should adopt a synchronous mindset. Some schools who have no way of delivering online mechanism, like other public schools for that matter, they opted for a distance module modality. So teachers develop their modules to be given to students through the LGUs, and that will be their way of communication. For those who will be adopting online modality, we will not only be focusing on the synchronous way of teaching. Why? Sometimes the other teachers would try to replicate the instructor-based learning activities, but we should know that web conferencing is not sustainable for many teachers. This is the experience of some schools outside the Philippines who'd been adapting online modalities. A synchronous mindset, therefore, should help students learn their own pace, independent of time and location. And this is ideal for families who up to now are still gripping with school closure, families who don't have the capacity to procure uh, gadgets, tablets, and other way of adapting to online modalities. Students contribute to discussion or become proactive to start it. Everyone contributes when they can. Of course, we need deadlines, but teachers should also be considerate, particularly for those students who are less fortunate. Second, as teachers, we should not overwhelm our students. Imagine how many subjects our students are enrolled in. All these teachers provide their own requirements, provides their own other assessment mechanism. So students have to cope up with that. Therefore, it is advised that teachers should not give everything all at once. An example weekly scheme is presented in the screen. For example, A teacher would present the new lesson every Monday. On Tuesday, the teacher would have a practice quiz. On Wednesday, homework for the next week. Of course, this can change, and particularly in talks with other teacher. Third, don't panic. It's okay to have not figured out everything. Um, some teachers who are not so well versed with technology at this point in time are having hard time how to cope with this reality. Therefore, you could just upload your lesson week by week. So prevent from virtual pile of hundreds of assignments to check. So the suggestion is work on lessons and assignments directly in the platform and only hit publish button once you feel satisfied with your work. You can also schedule modules to be released at a certain time or a weekly basis. So this is in agreement with other teachers and the school head. Fourth, as teachers, we should learn to share. We should collaborate and make transition smoother for lessons, assignments, and other activities. So this is actually connected to the last tip. No, as teachers, we could talk, we could integrate our lessons, particularly the performance output that we require from our students. So school heads need to have a centralized library to store and manage different learning resources like files, class templates, rubrics, web content, and question bank. Some schools had been doing this already, in particularly in compiling their quizzes, their periodical exam in their item bank. Even the Department of Education had been practicing this for a long time. Fifth, reach out to your colleagues. This is what I was telling you earlier. So asynchronous learning relies on good support and collaboration among teachers in collaboration with their school head. So open lines of communication for teachers and students for issues and challenges. Remember that there are parents who are also having a hard time on trying to perform the role in this kind of modality. So teachers must have an open line with parents, with guardians, and other LGUs, particularly on issues they encounter along the way in delivering online modality. So synchronous communication could be in a way of chat, web conferencing, while asynchronous communication could be done through online forums. So parents have access to platforms through parent accounts and easily contact teachers. That is why some schools already initiated parents orientation, particularly on the modalities that the school will be adopting. Runita Mohan from Cypher Learning also shared 7 tips for making digital teaching experience more fruitful. Some of them are just a repetition of the earlier discussion that we have, so I will not overdwell on them. I will only focus on the new tips being presented. One, easy to use e-learning technology. So we will be using learning management system for students and even for teachers. So the LMS should be user-friendly both to teachers and students. But teachers should spend time testing before using it so that it will be easier for the teacher to coach and help students on the mechanism of the learning system. Provide extra support to teachers to make the most of the software being used. So the school should train their teachers on how to go about this learning management system. The Department of Education actually has conducted a lot of capacity building for this matter. May it be on the use of Google Classroom and other e-learning management system. Teachers and students will follow a new routine considering the new normal or the next normal in education. So the second tip, therefore, is to create your own routine. So teachers should remember that students who are learning at home, they also have their own chores to do. So you should consider these other activities of students in giving assignments and activities to students. This is the importance of adapting asynchronous learning because sometimes the time that we are giving to students, there are still other things that they need to do. So by you adapting asynchronous learning, we still give students the capacity and the opportunity to comply with the requirements at a time not far from the deadline. Third, find additional resources. Many students are new to online learning. Some of them are aware with social media, but many of them are not aware of the open sources that they might use and they can use for our lesson. So as teachers and even school heads, we should provide the list of possible online resources that can be used both by parents and students in trying to comply the requirement of the school of the subject. Fourth, be friend with your video meetings. There are times that teachers has to meet students through video conferencing. So what we're supposed to do is to make this conference more friendly, less formal mechanism. That means to say, teachers could, for example, start the day by asking students, how was your day? Anything you would like to share? And along the way, teachers could even ask students about their insights of the previous lesson, how they were able to put them into practice. So these are ways to befriend the video meetings. Use it to bolster interaction between students, among students, or between students and teachers. Encourage them to discuss topics and share their own observation with each other. This is where students are trying to become critical, particularly in giving their own opinion on ideas discussed by teachers and their classmates. Communicate regularly. And we have discussed this already because this will help parents and students, help them in the challenges that they encounter in our online modality. Be flexible. And this is connected to our asynchronous learning because we know that students, sometimes there are other things that they need to comply as part of their household chores, and of course, the requirements with other subjects. Consider students with additional burden at home. I mentioned that already. Allow students to redo or resubmit work to achieve better grade to make learning more fruitful. Sometimes, because of other responsibilities, students cannot meet the competencies required by the course. As teachers, we should give students this opportunity to recomply, to redo, in order to at least meet the standard required by the subject. Seven, repurpose your content. For teachers, content recycling is trying to make use of your previous content and trying to reshape it, to relay out it in order to present a seemingly new presentation. You need not to start from the scratch. So transform into a new format. For example, turning a blog post into an infographic is a good example. You don't need to write every post, shoot every video, and design every infographic from scratch. Instead, you can use a piece of new content as the basis for posts, videos, social media posts, webinars, and more. To sum up, use online tools in a very creative way. Create work from home routine, considering the other responsibilities of students and teachers. Boost learning with additional resources, particularly online resource. Put video meeting to full use. That means to say you have to be more friendly, you have to be more um, social with your students. We try to lesser the formal modalities in conducting classroom. Communicate often with parents and students. Be flexible with our modalities and trying to repurpose our content. With this, we see the importance of technology in delivering quality education. Of course, this applies to those schools who will be embracing full online mechanism. Schools who cannot afford may either adopt the distance learning through module-based instruction or even radio and TV-based instruction. That is why those who will be using online modalities must be able to be creative in order to make the delivery less stressful and saturating. Before we proceed, we should also remember that despite the importance of technology, um, technologies used when it's too much could sometimes bring about drawbacks to students and even to teachers. That is why digital detox is actually introduced as a way to striking the balance in using technology. But what is digital detox? It is a period of time where a person refrains from using electronic devices to the connected or connected to the internet, like smartphones and computers. We should know that there are already countries who've been using online modality and we have experienced a lot of challenges, and one of that is saturation with technology. That is why they try to introduce adapting digital detox. Digital detox is an opportunity to reduce stress and focus on interaction with people that can prevent dependence on gadgets. So, as we appreciate technology, we should always have in mind that everything should be used in moderation. Okay. Provides time to experience nature and get physical exercise. Sometimes we are so obsessed with our online modalities that we forget our health. So practice mindfulness. Digital detox will also help us maintain a healthy balance between in real life and the digital world. Others said it is trying to disconnect to reconnect. But why do we need to disconnect? Gadgets enhances efficiency, convenience, and communication. We have discussed that earlier. That is why we are actually embracing online modality. Yet, it would also mean less time to spend doing real world activities, less time spent with people we love. And sometimes, our relationship suffers. Now, what digital detox is being presented by researchers on this matter? So that the following discussion will be based on research studies on the importance of digital detox. According to Stiglitz, excessive media use could lead to some behavioral, emotional, and academic problems. One research said that addiction to technology would lead to depression and anxiety. A study conducted with 38 students addicted to smartphones resulted to the changes in the brain which has significantly higher scores in depression, anxiety, insomnia, and impulsive behavior. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Yung mga estudyante na sobra nang na-addict sa smartphone, may it be on games or other use, has a significant change in their brain activity. In this questionnaire that they answered, scores in depression, anxiety, insomnia, and impulsive behavior were actually the higher scores. Another study conducted to 82 young adults who were FB users showed a decreased level of life satisfaction. So students spend much time in social media would lead to increased depression. Why is that? Sometimes as you try to read posts in the Facebook, you tend to compare it to yourself. And sometimes you realize that other people are far off better than you. So feeling mo kawawa ka, so doon ka nagkakaroon ng lower self-esteem. Second, gaming disorder is now a mental health condition. According to World Health Organization, in the International Classification of Diseases Manual, gaming disorder is now a mental health condition. Gaming disorder is similar to gambling and substance abuse. According to American Psychiatric Association, certain pathways in the brains of video gamers react in the same way like drug addict substance. Therefore, this disorder is the ability to control with obsession with video gaming. The World Health Organization therefore says that addictive nature of digital media in general and video games in particular emphasize the importance of digital detoxing to avoid addiction. So, it is important therefore to disconnect from constant stimuli provided by digital world gives the nervous system a chance to power down and rebalance. So, for us who've been exposed to gadgets, digital detox will enable us to rebalance our life and power down in order to appreciate nature and the people around us. Third, attention deficit hyperactive disorder or ADHD is also linked to the use of technology. The Journal of American Medical Association studied teens using digital media more likely to develop ADHD at the end of 2 years. Meaning, those young people who were subjected to research after 2 years, they were actually found to have shown hyper or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Impulsivity is actually the symptom of ADHD. It is the impulse control is managed by brain frontal cortex. According to brain imaging research, excessive screen time, may it be video games, social media, affect the frontal lobe like cocaine. So parang sinasabi nito na yung mga estudyanteng sobrang nahilig sa gadget, ang epekto nito ay katulad lang sa gumagamit ng cocaine. Hence, leads to compulsive and erratic behavior. Fourth, more digital media means less exercise and less time outdoors. So what will be the effect? Excessive use of gadgets would lead to sedentary behavior, meaning longer time in front of screen or at smartphones. Harvard study presented teens who spend too much time a day, like smartphones, tablets, and computers, were more likely to become obese. For us teachers and other professionals who'd been into work from home modality, we are also exposed to gadgets. However, excessive digital exposure can also cause physical stress. Like for example, you are in front of me, we are in front of the computer, and sometimes we started to complain about back pain, the pain in our palms. So ergonomics therefore is actually suggested in order to minimize this physical stress. My wife, who is an occupational health physician, would actually advise the employees of the company she handles to observe ergonomics. So, one way of doing that is, for example, you are facing a computer. If you can see the screen, our distance from the screen must be on the indicated uh, measurement. You consider that's between 18 to 24 inches away from the screen. Our posture should be properly observed. Another way to help us uh, control or manage stress, particularly for our exposure to gadgets, is to observe the 20-20-20 rule in order to reduce the effects of digital eye strain. How do we practice 20-20 rule? It says take a break for 20 seconds and look at something 20 feet away every 20 minutes. This will help our eyes to adjust its lenses in order to minimize eye strain. So this was from Healthy Set Go website. So more screen time replaces healthier activities like exercise, meditation, yoga, walking in nature. So old generation versus new generation have different way of appreciating nature. So it keeps man from his own creative expression, especially children, which is important part of identity formation and brain development. So young children should be guided on the exact time or the moderation that they need to observe. Then, how do we do digital detox as parents, as educators? First, let's try to remove distraction. According to Blake Snow, we have four burners among us. These are our family, our friends, our health, our work. According to him, we have to remove what is not essential. And therefore, the remaining time we have to spend with our family. No alerts, beeps, buzzes, or notification except for emergencies. Because according to Blake, most of our emergencies are only imagined. We focus on what really matters and make better use of our time. Don't glamorize on your business. Sometimes our use of gadgets, we try to justify it. I'm busy. I have a lot of things to do. I have a lot of things to submit, and there are a lot of deadlines to meet. So according to him, don't be proud that you are busy. Business is easier than taking time to pursue what really makes us happy. But start to think to be more productive. Third, always ask why when you pull out your phones. Smartphones, handy tools for finding answers, keeping in touch with friends, or even checking our time, but can also be used to distract, avoid, or ignore what is happening in front of us. So according to Blake, putting our cell phones in our pockets is the bravest thing to do, and not use it as security blanket, especially when we are sitting alone or feeling alone with our friends. We learn to be present and grateful for the moment. Fourth, we should use the rule of thirds. What is this? That means we have to divide our life into thirds. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for free time. Working more will not make us more productive. Working smart and keeping time free allows our mind to wander in ways that make the hours we work more productive. According to research, for rote workers, more than 40 hours diminishes productivity. For creative workers, more than 20 hours per week does. So letting your smartphones, your work, ball and chain, you are not making yourself productive. Fifth, periodically fast from electronics. Literally fast, just like the Holy Week fast. According to Blake, he practices by bringing his own family for 1 week during spring and fall without gadgets. They just appreciate the presence of one another. So children play without cell phones, without tablets. They just use bricks. They use other puzzles and other way to appreciate and maximize the time together. Electronic fast forces you to connect with others and oneself, which is actually an amazing experience. At home, I have a pamangkin, I call him Elgo. Sometimes he would play with his gadgets, but more often than not, he would bring inside our room his bricks, his puzzles, and sometimes he would ask her Ninang, my wife, to tell him stories. So this is our way of fasting from gadgets. Again, we have to remember that philosophy who said that everything when too much is bad. So how do we apply this in our Philippine context? Okay, before the class starts in August, the Department of Education crafted a big plan. This plan is called Learning Continuity Plan. The purpose of this is to provide relevant, quality, and accessible education to learners. It is the major response and commitment in ensuring the health, safety, and well-being of learners and teachers and even personnel in time of COVID-19 while finding ways for education to continue amidst the crisis for the upcoming school year. So, for this, I will focus only on the teaching learning modality that we actually discussed earlier. But how are we supposed to adapt the four modalities? So the Department of Education has adopted four modalities that will be used depending on the situation of the area. The first modality is face-to-face modality. So earlier or towards the latter part of this month, the Secretary of Education, Secretary Leonor Briones, actually said that those areas which are very far from uh, contaminating the COVID-19 may be allowed for face-to-face modality. But during the SONA of the president, I think there are some more changes to be observed. Blended learning, distance learning, and home-based learning or homeschooling. The first two modality will only be adopted in places without COVID-19 cases, while the distance learning and homeschooling will be adopted in places with COVID-19 cases. So the second, third, fourth actually would use the online modality depending on the capacity of the school in observing this modality. So face-to-face modality will be subject to physical distancing and minimum health standards and minimal class size. This is when the school is allowed to use face-to-face learning. Blended learning, however, is a combination of a face-to-face learning and online distance learning or modular distance learning and TV radio-based instruction. Distance learning, however, takes place between the teacher and the learner who are geographically remote from each other during instruction. It is here where LMS or learning uh, modality or mechanism will be adopted. It could be modular distance learning, online distance learning, or TV radio-based instruction. For the homeschooling or home-based learning, it will be facilitated by qualified parents, guardians, or tutors who have undergone relevant trainings and subjects to regulation. The policy for this is still under review. All these modalities are actually presented in this infographic presented by the Department of Education. So in conclusion, using technology to increase efficiency in areas with the capacity to do so, while empowering learners and communities to create positive learning environment in which the student can grow. So we have to remember that the use of online modality, its main purpose is to increase efficiency. So teachers are not alone in this online modality. We have our colleagues, we have other organizations to help us in adapting online learning. We need to be more determined in doing our vital role as educators. That is why, even those who will be using the distance learning, we still have to orient parents so that they will also be oriented on the exact competencies required from their children. We should not panic, not to overwhelm ourselves and our students, and consider teaching asynchronous classes, and let's continue to reach out to one another. That is why we commend the local government unit, particularly in Pampanga, for reaching out to teachers, to the SDOs, in providing copying machine and other help for that matter in order to produce modules to schools which has no capacity of delivering online modality. Saint Francis of Assisi, a Catholic priest and saint, once said, "Start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible." So with that, thank you very much. I hope I was able to share to you some insights on how to strike the balance in using technology. If you have some questions, my email is projected on your screen. My number is also there. Feel free to contact me if you have some questions. So thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for inviting me here. And good afternoon once again. Hi, sir.